Things have gotten incredibly tense between the United States and Iran, pushing them right to the edge in this really precarious standoff. So in this explainer, we're going to dive into what this high-stakes confrontation is all about, what the demands are, and what the absolutely chilling consequences could be if diplomacy completely fails.
So what's at the heart of all this? Well, it really boils down to this pretty stark ultimatum from the White House. And let's be clear, this isn't just diplomatic fluff. It's a direct threat that has put the entire region on notice. The message couldn't be simpler or more severe. Make a deal on our terms, or get ready for a fight.
You know, by issuing an ultimatum like that, the U.S. has completely changed the game. Iran's leadership is now under massive pressure to come up with a response, trying to walk this incredibly fine line between looking weak and starting a devastating war. Every single move is being watched, and believe me, the margin for error is razor thin.
Okay, so you might be thinking, why can't they just sit down and hammer out a deal? Well, mediators from around the region are trying to do just that, but they are facing a huge challenge. The problem is what Washington is demanding and what Tehran is willing to even consider. They're just worlds apart. Let's take a look at why.
And this is the key phrase you keep hearing from people who are close to the talks. Despite a whole flurry of messages being passed back and forth, this very big gap means they're not making any real progress. It's not just that they're far apart, it feels like they're speaking completely different languages when it comes to finding a solution.
So what is the U.S. actually asking for? It really comes down to three big things. First, they want Iran to seriously scale back its ballistic missile program. Second, they want a complete stop to Iran's nuclear enrichment. And third, they want Iran to cut off all its support for its allies in the region. You know, groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen.
And this right here, this is why they've hit a wall. For every single one of those U.S. demands, Iran has a hard red line. Zero nuclear enrichment, Iran says that's totally unacceptable. Limiting their missiles, for them, that's a core part of their national defense. And ending support for their regional allies, that's seen as giving up their main source of influence. So we're not talking about small disagreements here. These are fundamental clashes.
So, backed into this corner, Iran isn't just picking one path. Nope, instead it's playing this really complex two-sided game. On one hand, keeping the door ajar for diplomacy, but on the other, making it very, very clear that they are ready for a fight.
All right, so what is Iran actually saying? I mean, how are they communicating this dual strategy to the rest of the world? Let's break down their official messaging.
So on one hand, you get statements like this. This is the diplomatic message. Officials are publicly saying, hey, we're open to a deal. But you've got to pay attention to the key words, mutually beneficial and fair. That's basically code for a deal that respects their red lines, not one that's just based on U.S. demands. They're saying they're ready to talk, but with dignity.
But then, almost in the same breath, you get this, the other side of the coin. This is the deterrence message. While they're talking about deals, they're also sending out these sharp warnings that their military is on high alert, with its finger on the trigger, ready to hit back instantly and powerfully. So when you put those two pieces together, the strategy becomes crystal clear. It's a calculated move. They're signaling that, yeah, they'd prefer a diplomatic solution, but they will not be bullied. If a war is imposed on them, they are going to fight back, and they're going to fight back hard. And this brings us to the most dangerous part of this whole standoff. If diplomacy and deterrence both fail, what would a war actually look like? The scary reality is, it almost certainly would not be a contained battle.
This is the critical question everyone is asking. And the answer is terrifyingly complex. Because a war with Iran wouldn't just be fought in Iran.
You can just see the potential ripple effect here. Iran has spent decades building this huge network of influence. Its allies in Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq have already said they're ready to jump in. And beyond that, Iran's own ballistic missiles can reach key U.S. allies, especially Israel. A war wouldn't just be on one front, it would be a regional explosion. And this is probably the most chilling assessment, and it's coming straight from Iranian officials. It's basically them admitting to the profound chaos that would just be unleashed. Once that first shot is fired, the whole situation would likely spiral into something that no one, not Tehran, not Washington, can manage or predict. The ceiling of a confrontation like this is just unknown. So that's the tightrope they're all walking, a super fragile balance between the immense pressure of U.S. demands on one side and the catastrophic potential of a war on the other. A war that, once it starts, could have no clear end and no clear winner.
And that leaves us with this one final, really unsettling question. If this delicate balance breaks, if this uncontrollable battle actually begins, what on earth comes next?